So I had a positive human experience yesterday.
Oh, I don't recommend that.
So I had a positive human experience, and it was notable because this is typically a negative human experience. And I found a way to consciously turn the tide on this experience that has a strong tendency towards the negative. So, Tom, do you enjoy telemarketers?
No.
I think that's probably a near universal reaction.
That doesn't surprise you, right?
Yeah. So on the one level, of course, no one likes just being interrupted and called for no reason and for things that they don't want. But the thing that more bothers me about telemarketers is knowing that the people who are, if it's not a robocall, right? If it's an actual person, the people who are on the phone aren't the ones who are doing this misdeed against you.
Yeah, they're just doing their jobs.
Right. And typically a very low paying job that they probably hate.
Yep.
And they're probably not being treated very well by their employer. I mean, I guess I don't want to completely disparage all telemarketers and telemarketing companies, but based on some of the content of the calls I've received, if they're not sleazy or illegal, then they trend towards that. Right? These are bottom feeder kind of organizations. So I always imagine, the people who have for 8 hours a day have to cold call other human beings, and most of the time have this very negative human interaction, and what that must feel like.
Mm-hmm.
And yet I don't want to have them prey upon my sympathy and just allow them to waste my time, right?
Right.
So I got this call yesterday, and she starts. I saw that it was a telemarketer call, but it was the caller ID I'd seen like 12 times before. So I'm like, I'm just going to deal with this. So she starts into her spiel, and I put the phone about 6 inches away from me, and I started singing, Tom. and I've done this.
Sorry, that's really funny.
No, I've done this half a dozen times, and here's the song that I have now used. My kids all love this. Please stop calling me. Oh, please stop calling me. Oh, I am asking you so politely to please stop calling me.
Oh, please stop.
Now, I know this is the second time that I've sung on a podcast, and, I swear to God, I'm not leveraging it for my musical career. But so the point here is that you really got to get into it. You have to enjoy the moment, belt it out, even if you're not a great singer. And I certainly would fall into that category.
Yes.
Right. So you do that. I get back on the phone 9 times. I've done this like a half a dozen times now. Most of the time they're either laughing or they're just replying to me in an obviously smiling kind of manner. And I just say to them sir, are we good? And they're like, yeah, okay, sir, goodbye. And then we hang up and the call ends. They're happy. It's this nice little break from their day, and I don't have to deal with them anymore. How awesome is that, right?
Well done. Well done.
So there you go. I've turned it on its heels. I've increased the median empathy. So, dude, you just finished a massive athletic achievement. I totally want to grill you about your extravaganza yesterday.
Well, we don't want to oversell this.
Well, Tom, you have to be proud of your accomplishments. Anytime you're out there pounding the pavement, you're lapping everybody on the couch. So you got to feel good about yourself.
However minor those accomplishments might be.
Exactly. Well, let me ask you this first. Did you finish?
Yes, I finished.
Oh, excellent. Okay. I suppose we should say what we're talking about here, huh?
If you'd like.
So all I know is that you ran a 5K yesterday.
Yes, I did. It was the first official 5K that I've run, actual with people, and I had a little number, that type of thing.
Have you run 5Ks with non-people before?
Yes, once or twice before.
So what was your number?
60.
Did you pick that out or was it random?
It was just the order that you register in.
Were you pretty happy with that number?
It's a nice round number.
Yeah, 60. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, it has a lot of factors. It's good. It's
right?
a good number.
It didn't have to be prime. You weren't I need to be.
No.
Okay.
My wife was 59, so she was prime.
Oh, sweet. So you did it with your wife.
Yeah, she registered me without me knowing it.
Oh, nice. So do you guys run together as a thing?
We had been. Earlier in the summer, we had set a goal for ourselves to do this. And yesterday, we both ran a 5K for the first time. So
Awesome.
we did it.
Did you like run at the same pace? Like, did you run together?
No. I was running at a very leisurely pace. So I came in second of the two of us.
Okay. Is your wife a more accomplished runner?
Well, she is as of yesterday.
I mean, like in general, is she a better runner than you are? Like,
We both started from scratch earlier in the
okay.
summer, and she's gotten a lot better.
okay, so you're not going up against some like Olympic level competitor here.
No.
Okay.
We started a C2 5K program at the same time.
C2 5K, what's that?
Stands for Couch to 5K. It's like a 9-week little training program. You can get lots of little apps, mobile apps that will run you through these things. So you run like 3 times a week
Sweet.
for 9 weeks, and it just builds you up to doing a 5K. You start out by just running for like 60 seconds and then walking for 90 seconds for half an hour,
Right.
stuff like that.
Had you ever done any running before this?
No.
Sweet.
I'm a walker.
Okay.
I like walking.
Okay. And a hike, I've seen pictures of you hiking. You like to hike
Yeah,
as
yeah.
well.
Yeah, I like hill walking and long distance walking, stuff like that. Not running.
Okay.
Blah.
So you've done long distance walking and a fair bit of hiking before. So when you say like you're getting off the couch, it's not like you're going from sedentary potato chip lifestyle 24/7 to like I'm actually exercising for the first time. This is just a different type of physical activity. Yeah?
That's right. That's right.
And yet was the goal like a general sort of health goal?
Yeah, I mean, why else would someone do that?
I don't know,
Why else would someone put themselves through that torture of running?
Well, okay.
I can't imagine anyone actually enjoys doing this.
I enjoy running.
Well, you're a little odd.
I don't think that's true, though. I think many people enjoy running. So, okay, well, let me ask you this. So while you were in your 9-week practice, right,
Yep.
of ramping up to this,
Yep.
did you enjoy the practicing? Was it all just hellish punishment?
It wasn't hellish, but it wasn't enjoyable.
It wasn't enjoyable?
No, I don't really enjoy it. Sorry.
So did you ever experience the quote-unquote runner's high? Like you're going for like 20 minutes and you're like, yeah, you got all those happy chemicals coursing through your brain. You're all like clear and grooving and top of the world?
I don't think so.
No?
Every time I've gone longer than a mile or so, I'm just waiting for it to be over.
Interesting. So prior to yesterday, had you ever run for a block of 5K like in your practices?
Yes. We were doing down at the local high school on the track.
Okay.
So, I mean, like the week before, I did like 13 laps of the track. That was essentially the same thing.
So, okay, so you're track lapping as opposed to like just running around your neighborhood or cross country.
Yeah, we're doing both the same, depending on what we're in the mood for. The track is obviously a lot easier to run around.
Did it take you a while to get from walking to being able to sustain a run for 5K?
Yeah, it did. I mean, the actual C2 5K program is 9 weeks. And it took us a little longer than that because I took a few weeks break in the middle because I injured my knee.
Oh, okay.
But we kind of started finishing up in the last few weeks, and then we had a local 5K in town that we signed up for.
What was it? A charity or a fund?
It was raising money for some conservation project in town.
Oh, nice. So you raised a little money. Did you get like a stale bagel and a green banana at the end of the race? Like that's typically the badge of honor for a 5K.
They had apples that,
Okay.
That's our town is known for the apple orchards. So
That's true. Yes. Have you gone apple picking this fall, by the way?
no.
Do you ever do that?
No.
You've never gone apple picking.
I've gone once, but once is enough to experience what apple picking is all about. And
Right.
I've done that. You don't have to do it again.
I guess the actual activity is a bit more engaging when you have young children and they're running around the orchard.
Yeah, it's quite a racket they got. All these orchards got going when having you pay to pick their product.
Yeah, right. Right. It's pretty funny. It is amazing though how much better a freshly picked apple tastes than a store-bought apple.
Yeah. I mean, we can get fresh apples here all the time in this town. So
Yeah.
I don't have to go down and pick it myself. I can just have someone else pick it for me and then pick it up a couple hours later.
Yeah. True. No, well, I mean, I live in a similar place where there's fresh vegetables and stuff and apple orchards. But I definitely found it was different. Maybe it was just because of the sun. I don't know. Like the sun warming the apple on the tree. But
Yeah.
like I don't know if you've ever done any gardening, but even if you're a mediocre gardener, a freshly grown tomato it's like a world of difference from
Yeah, that is true. That is true.
a freshly grown garden tomato is the tomato in itself, and a supermarket tomato is like Plato's cave of tomato. You know what I mean? There's a
Plato's cave. Very good. That's a deep cut.
absolutely. So all right, so you ran this race. I guess I wanted to finish up with so forcing yourself to go 5K, right?
Right.
So
right.
like in your training, about how long did it take you to do 5K?
It was very slow. I think I did it yesterday in about 38 minutes, which I think is really slow, but I did it.
Yeah.
Which is the important thing.
So
It was like a 12-minute mile I think I'm doing. So it's practically a little bit faster than walking.
okay, kind of a jog.
Yeah. In my defense, I will say that this is I live in a town that's basically all hills.
Right.
So this wasn't a race on the flat. So it was up and down, up and down, up and down.
Oh yeah. So after the first 10 minutes though, like mentally you just didn't get into a state of like you're sort of it's kind of like Pomodoro, right? You're committed to it. You know you know you're going to run for 30 plus minutes. So you didn't sort of mentally find yourself in a place of like, this is actually kind of cool. But it was just grueling the whole time.
No, it wasn't grueling. But there's probably a medium between grueling and actually enjoying it that I slotted in somewhere.
Oh, okay. So you weren't like spitting on the ground, hating humanity.
Right. But I'm not looking forward to doing it again either. Although I'm sure I'll be dragged out there again sometime soon.
Huh. Okay, so this has not sparked a lifelong interest in 5K running.
It has not. I'm sorry. I apologize.
I have like 3 or 4 other questions now that have been completely erased by your response then. Because I was going to ask you, like, did you approach this as a race? Like, did you sprint at the finish and did you empty the tank and did you hit the wall and power through the wall? And
no, I kind of just took my time.
Right.
I was just focused on finishing and not dying. So I was in no way trying to exert myself
right
past what I was capable of.
Okay. You were not emptying the tank in the final K.
No.
Okay.
No.
Were there people like clapping on the side going, "Yay, good job"?
Yeah, that was nice.
So that was another aspect of this I wanted to ask you about. So in our first experiment conversation here, we tried to sort of slot you and along the extrovert introvert, and we were looking at the definition of misanthrope, right? As somebody who's both avoids and has a distaste for humanity in social situations. And we had sort of said, that's not exactly you, because while you might want to avoid interacting with humans, you don't particularly wish them harm, right?
That's correct.
Right. And yet this was consciously putting yourself in a social, how is this like interact? There's a lot of close-quartered, sweaty humans you had to deal with here. How was that?
It was fine. It wasn't that big of a race. I mean, it's just our small little town, so it's only a few hundred people doing it, and plus there was a lot of kids and stuff.
Oh, nice.
So, I mean, going around the course, I mean, I was passed at least 5 people pushing strollers.
How did that make you feel?
I wanted to hop in.
Oh man. So wow. So there was no part of this that sparked your interest in like higher aerobic level of activity. Like you, even during the race, with all that adrenaline going, you wanted to hop into a stroller.
Yes, that's correct. I was looking forward to the donuts afterwards.
So like, was the finish line like a big, huge like upswell of social support and emotion kind of thing? No,
it was just a few people just hanging around clapping. And I think most people had packed up and left by the time I got to the finish line.
Did your wife give you a nice round of applause?
She did, yes. She thankfully had waited for me at the end.
Right.
She had got there a few minutes ahead of me. So.
And then she had gotten there, checked her email, taken a nap, and then.
That's right.
here,
Got the car
here
started.
comes Tom over the hill.
Yep.
Wow. Okay, so it did not spark a deeper social connection into a shared social experience kind of thing.
What are you talking about? No.
Brother X runs triathlons, right?
Yeah. Oh God.
And I don't think he's going to get us into triathlons anytime soon.
No.
And he doesn't talk about the race in any sort of fluffy terminology about, connection to everyone and all that. But he does definitely describe a sense of heightened adrenaline and energy that is a shared sort of experience and energy that comes from all of these people really focused and exerting themselves at the same time, and then people on the sidelines cheering them on. And
That may be the case for all the those super fit people at the front, but for the poor slobs like me in the back huffing and puffing, I mean, it's not a lot going on for that.
So by the end, because of your pace, was it still sort of comfortable, or was there a high level of huff puff going on?
I was comfortable.
Yeah.
I had a slow pace, so I didn't overexert myself, so I was able to go through the whole thing.
Do you think this has had a beneficial effect on your overall life exercise plan? Like, do you think running a little more will benefit you, or is that going to change your routine?
I might do it every once in a while. I don't think it'll be a regular thing. I mean, I much prefer walking.
Yeah.
And doing hill hiking and stuff like that.
Yeah. Wow, I had all these questions about high intensity interval training I was going to ask you about, but I don't think you did.
You're talking to the wrong person there, Ped.
Do you think we should explore space?
Absolutely, I do. That's a no-brainer for me. Absolutely. Why not?
Okay, well, so why explore space?
Because it's there. Why do you climb Mount Everest? Because it's there.
If your wife was extremely sick, in need of your care, but you really wanted to climb Mount Everest, would you go climb Mount Everest?
No.
Okay. So, in a similar way, if the world had an enormous amount of problems, why would you orient your resources towards exploring something just because it's there?
Because you can't solve all the problems, and if you are focused entirely on solving problems, then you never progress.
So, space exploration leads to progress?
I would say so, yeah.
Okay, progress in what sense of the word?
Well, just in the development of technologies that enable it, certainly have secondary benefits to humanity, which can conceivably solve problems down the road that you didn't know you had or you currently have that you don't have a solution to, like, say, overpopulation.
Okay. So, space exploration benefits technological evolution.
Yeah, I think so. I think eventually it'll benefit human evolution as well.
Is it necessary to go into space in order to evolve technology? Couldn't you do it in a cheaper way by staying on the planet? I mean, it's not cheap doing anything in space.
Right.
So couldn't we advance our computers and our biochemistry and understanding of physics while hanging out on the planet?
You could, but that would be going in a different direction. That wouldn't necessarily achieve the same results. Oh, they achieve different results. I just watched the presentation this week by Elon Musk, where he laid out his vision for the colonization of Mars. And one of the things that he pointed out was that science doesn't progress on its own. It needs an impetus to progress. Without visionaries, without people who are willing to push the boundaries of what human experience is, civilization can stagnate technologically. And it has happened in the past. That's a justification for exploration.
Okay, so two separate threads here. One is just the pragmatic preservation of the species and addressing world population. That if you have a second environment, like a second habitat like Mars.
That's Musk's main goal, is to create a opportunity for us to be an interplanetary species, because that's the only way we can survive in the long term.
Unless we stabilize world population.
Or every other problem that's going to occur. And the long list of problems that can destroy our environment.
Meaning your assumption is that at some point we make the Earth uninhabitable.
At some point we do it, or outside forces do it, yes.
Okay. Are we jumping the gun in terms of when we're going to make the Earth completely uninhabitable? I mean, I understand that long-term view of at some point, a dinosaur asteroid comes and wipes out life on Earth.
That could be next week. That could be in 10,000 years.
Yeah, but probably not next week.
There's as equal probability as it's next week as it is any time in the future. It could happen anytime.
But still, any given year, pretty low probability.
Yes, but it will happen. I mean, adding up over the years is going to be a certainty.
Okay, yes. But are there more important... I mean, I'm playing devil's advocate here because I kind of agree with you.
That's fine. That's good.
But there is another perspective of me that can see this sense of, there's other problems.
Yeah, why go out there when we have so many problems here?
Plus, and I mean, I don't want to get too fluffy on you, but, we're talking about median human empathy. And who cares, in one sense, about technological evolution if it's in the hands of a species that has not evolved its empathy? To me, technology is empathy agnostic. It's just a tool in the hands of a human being. And if we haven't learned to evolve our, whatever you want to say, our consciousness, our nature, our behavior, to the degree where we're no longer destroying each other like we do today, is it jumping the gun to then put these even more enormously powerful tools and technology into our hands and then spread the virus of humanity out into the solar system? Should we get our own stuff together first before doing that? And I don't know. I go back and forth with it. It's certainly exciting from a geek perspective,
right,
to watch space exploration. And yet, knowing that I find this stuff fun and interesting, I try and remove that bias from my evaluation of whether it's actually practical to do so. You seem pretty convinced, though.
Yeah, I'm pretty satisfied that becoming interplanetary is an important goal for our species. Certainly on Earth, we're pretty special, and we found no other evidence that we share that characteristic with anyone else in the universe. So self-preservation is certainly a powerful motivator for any creature, and for our species, I feel it's important.
Yeah, off-site backup.
Off-site backup, exactly. We can't just sit here and wait for the asteroid to come and lose it all.
What's the probability of an asteroid wiping out the species in the next 100 years?
Oh, I have no idea. But I'm sure someone's calculated it. And it's not zero.
Yeah, I guess I'd be willing to roll the dice a bit. But I don't know. It's not like, at the end of the day, is this really a practical decision that could be made? So, what we're really talking about is government funding of NASA, for example. But it's not like on the floor of Congress, they're going to say, you know what, instead of funding NASA, let's fund median empathy. Right? It's not like these two things can't be pursued in parallel.
Yeah. Well, Musk is pursuing this as a commercial enterprise. He sees the colonization of Mars as a very similar to what happened in North America. The colonists that came here originally, it was a commercial enterprise and eventually built a nation. He wants to repeat the same thing on Mars. I don't know if you saw his presentation, but he is very ambitious with it. Surprisingly so. He's envisioning having 1 million people on Mars within the next 100 years.
Wow. That is much more ambitious than I thought. So it's interesting. You mentioned Elon Musk, and we just mentioned NASA. So clearly government-funded initiatives, at least in America, have a much higher safety bar, much lower risk tolerance than I guess the commercial endeavors would be, eh? Would that be accurate?
Yeah, I think so. And the only practical way to do human voyages to Mars is to make them one way. I.e., if you're going to Mars, you're going to die there, whether it's going to be on impact or from radiation poisoning after so many years or just asphyxiation or whatever mishap. You're on your own. I mean, and that was the same with the people that came to the New World. That was a one-way trip for most of them, and a lot of them died. But enough of them got here that there was a critical mass that they created a self-sustaining society, and that's Musk's intention about Mars. And he's right up front that's saying that a lot of people are going to die doing this.
That's pretty interesting.
But if you throw enough people at it, you'll get that foothold that you'll need. And once you have that foothold, the whole rest of the solar system opens up to you. Would you go?
No.
I mean, he intends to operate as a commercial enterprise, and his goal is to make it affordable for the average working person to be able to buy a ticket to Mars, i.e., to have it to be the price of like a house to get on one of those large ships that carry 100 or more people to Mars.
No, I would not go to Mars. To me, it's an interesting question as to whether it's morally/ethically right to expand the species to another planet
Hmm.
to allow the virus of humanity to spread.
Especially if you're describing humanity as a virus. Yes.
Well, I mean, I use that intentionally because, let's say the median empathy of humanity was several orders of magnitude lower than even what it is today. And
Hmm.
we don't need to cite chapter and verse about man's inhumanity to man and what's happening in the world today. Everyone knows wonderful examples of that, right? Imagine if it was even worse. And yet our technology was capable of transferring us to Mars. Would it be proper in that sense simply to preserve the species? In other words, does there come a point at which we ought not to preserve the experiment of Homo sapiens in the solar system, in the universe, because we haven't been responsible enough to evolve ourselves to where we treat other life with a minimum level of empathy, of respect?
Who can make that decision?
Well, we can as a species.
Yeah, but that would be run counter to everything that's we know about life itself, is to preserve its genes to pass on to future generations.
Many experiments over billions of years have come and gone, right?
That's right.
Many iterations, many variations.
Well, it's not just our species. For all intents and purposes, based on what we can observe right now, it is life itself in the universe. We have no evidence of any other life in the universe. What's on Earth is it, as far as we know. So if you're condemning Earth, if you're condemning humans to be an earthbound species, you're also condemning all the rest of life on Earth to be an earthbound species.
I guess. I don't know.
Are you willing to do that for shrimp, for fish,
Yes.
for salamanders?
Yes. Because shrimp they don't yet have self-conscious agency. And so they accept their fate within the rise and fall of species.
Do you find they have more value than inanimate matter?
Value.
Value to the base empathy of the universe in total.
Yeah, dude, I don't know. It's a good question. I guess what I'm saying is, to me, there's enough of a chance that the universe has life beyond the planet. Obviously, we don't know for sure, and that's a huge discussion about the Drake equation.
Right.
But there's certainly enough of a chance, and it's absolutely not out of the question that there is life, potentially lots of life in the universe. Therefore, is it proper under any level of empathy to propagate the species? And I mean, I would say that there is a minimum level in which it's proper. We like Doctor Who, right? And think about the Daleks. If we were the Daleks, and you were a Dalek on Skaro, would it be proper to propagate the Daleks? I don't think so.
Are we Daleks?
We certainly, in some cases, treat each other as such.
We certainly do exterminate.
Right. So that's what I'm saying, is that there's some level, in my mind, where it's not proper to propagate the species. I don't know what that level is, but I can certainly look around the world and say, gosh, there's some pretty terrible examples of people acting like Daleks.
Is setting the boundary on that expansion the biosphere of the Earth? Or when you come up with another biosphere? I mean, going to Mars would be essentially expanding into a vacuum.
Right, because you'd have to artificially create the atmosphere, you mean?
Well, not in vacuum in the sense that there isn't life there now. So you're just basically getting more room. You're just hopping from one island to another. Is there some moral imperative to not cross that outside of our own biosphere into another island in space? Is that what you're saying?
So
where do you draw that line of where this virus cannot cross?
So, okay, so good point. These are all gradations of there's no black and white distinction. I guess is what I would say. A natural delineation is the planetary boundary. Say we were Daleks and we just said, oh, it's just an island, whatever. We can evolve out of Daleks later, and we hopped onto Mars and whatever other planets. If we then saw other planetary bodies with other life, I think it would be pretty hard to stop at that point. I think the natural delineation is the planet. I'm not saying we should go to Mars. I'm just throwing out the idea that I don't completely ascribe to preservation of the species at all costs. I think we need to be worth preserving. And if we have not evolved ourselves to the point where we're a net add to the baseline empathy of the universe, I think there's an open question about whether we ought to expand our reach before we evolve our consciousness.
Do you think we're worth preserving? I think we're worth preserving. I'm very heartened by the fact that there's the Voyager and the Pioneer probes are leaving the solar system with examples of life on Earth encoded in them, or on the gold record and other things, that will be preserved. There's recordings on those spaceships of, music. There are examples of our art, examples of all the contributions of humanity. And that will be preserved, even though no one will ever see it again. But the thought that it's out there warms me slightly.
I concur. Well, what you're describing there, though, is sort of the best of humanity, right?
Are you still being devil's advocate, or?
I don't know. Maybe I'm talking myself into it. So, Tom, you sent me this link on what is called the morality machine.
The moral machine.
The moral machine, which is some...
I thought you'd be interested in this.
So, as soon as I saw it, and I clicked through the first screen of it, I almost jumped away from my computer.
Okay.
Because it reminded me why I so don't like the philosophy of morality or the philosophy of ethics. So, as you know, I'm a big philosophy geek.
That's right.
I majored in philosophy. It really helped me orient the rest of my life after I studied it. But when I was in college, I failed 2 classes. One of the classes I failed was philosophy of morality.
Interesting.
And it was because I was immoral. So for full sort of honest disclosure, probably the main reason I failed it was that I was not timely about turning in assignments and didn't completely do all of the reading.
That's usually my method to fail.
Yeah. So I don't want to be disingenuous and couch this as, some great injustice. I mean, it was really my fault that I failed the class. That being said, I had such a disconnect with my teacher, my philosophy teacher. And she was very much of the mindset of morality is a strictly defined, calculatable thing, but that is directly correlated to intelligence, and that the smartest people ought to define what is moral and codify it and impose that structure upon the mass of uneducated people.
That does sound ghastly.
Yes. In addition, she was very much uncomfortable with differences of opinion in class. And so we would be studying some philosopher and what they said about morality, and she would have her godlike interpretation of it. And I was unable to hold my disagreement, and I would argue pretty strongly with her about what was the correct interpretation. And so we did not get along. If I were to take away the fact that I had a personality conflict with this teacher and take away my lack of work ethic at the time and try and pick at the core of what was so irritating to me about this topic, it's the sense that philosophy, at least in the way that it was being used, is such the wrong tool for this topic. Like when I think about when I just try and boil it all down to what is right and what ought I to do in life and what is correct behavior, to me, it's nothing more than referring to my heart and feeling what is right, what is wrong, doing that, not always having the best effect, but the rightness and wrongness is in the intention. It's what was your mindset? Did you have a benevolent or a malevolent mindset? And so to try and look at a moral situation externally and just quantify it in terms of, what variable should go where is to me the exact wrong way to look at it. And the annoying way in which the philosophical mind tries to do this is to set up no-win impossible situations. These like edge case scenarios which no human will ever practically encounter. Mm-hmm. As if that's going to get us closer to a connection with real world everyday practical morality.
Okay.
And so this is essentially a web interface to that mental exercise.
It is indeed. It's trying to collect data on how morality can be codified for a AI operating a self-driving car.
Oh, because that has just another annoying thread too. The fact that the fact that an AI would even need to do that the fact that an AI wouldn't have 500 other data inputs, that it would from all its sensors, that it would come down to one of those overly simplistic trolley scenarios is just like mind-boggling to me. It's like such the wrong way to think about it.
Would you drive in a car that its primary goal was not to protect you at all costs? If it made the moral choices that are present in the trolley problem?
Was not to protect me at all costs.
Like it would drive you into the wall to protect someone crossing a crosswalk.
But see, but that's just the thing. I don't think it would ever have to make that choice.
But what if they did put that into the code that a car was able to do that? Would you ride in such a car? I mean, because self-driving cars are coming. They're going to be here.
Yep.
You might have one sooner than you think.
No, I agree with all that.
And they're only going to get smarter.
So from a practical perspective, would I protest the inevitable evolution of technology and not get into self-driving cars because of this? I don't think I probably would. I can't see myself having that strong of a philosophical resolution that I would not get in unless I saw the morality code underneath. Mm-hmm. So I think it would be kind of lazy in that respect.
Okay. Did you go through the little test that it gives you to judge the situations? Or did you just bail on it immediately after you saw how ghastly it was?
I bailed on the first one.
Okay. then maybe we should go through it together.
Well, you know, let's just do the first one, and I'll show you why I hate it. So we've been referring to this trolley problem. So the simplest explanation of the trolley problem is you have a trolley coming down the tracks. It's on its current track, it's going to kill somebody, but there's somebody else on the other track. Do you switch the track so that it kills the other person or the first person? You have lives in one hand, lives in the other hand. Who should you kill? And so the self-driving car example here is a car is coming down the road into a crosswalk. Should it swerve left to kill the left group of people or right to kill the right group of people?
Or swerve into a barrier to kill the occupants of the car.
Right.
That's one of the other choices they give you too.
Okay, so in the first one I'm looking at here, we have in this case, the self-driving car with sudden brake failure will continue ahead and drive through a pedestrian crossing. The result will result in the death of a man on the left, and on the right, your other option is the death of a male athlete. So do you kill a random person or do you kill a random person who is an athlete?
And the difference on the one on the right is that you're taking an intervention to move to another lane. Is that correct?
Yes. You are not letting things go on as they do.
Right.
So the reason why I find this so infuriating and why I refuse to select either of them is that the algorithm in the car that is determining where it should go, it's never going to come down to the tiebreaker of, is this a person or is this a person who's an athlete? Like the car, like, have you seen videos of self-driving cars? The data that they have in real time is ridiculous. Like, they have so many streams of input of data in order to determine, what to do in a situation. So even this situation where it looks like somebody is probably going to die, what it should do is to swerve into where it has the lowest percent chance of resulting in death, right? So, and it's never going to be 50.000000000%. And that's this overly simplistic scenario that these things present.
Well, that's just one of the scenarios that it presents you. If you go through the entire series, it gives you a whole variety. And by using that, they collect a whole database of how humans view these moral choices, and they can fine-tune an AI to be more attuned to human morality. Of course, these are unlikely situations, but
right.
You use the choices that the humans make in evaluating these to inform the AI.
But shouldn't the AI simply make whatever decision results in the least possibility of killing anybody?
Okay, what if that choice is between killing a pedestrian or killing the driver?
But that's the thing; it's never going to come down to either or like that.
Well, you just said it. Shouldn't it swerve or move to the place where it's going to cause the least amount of death? And what if that's unavoidable and you have to choose?
So in this case, if it's 60% chance that if you continue on, you're going to kill the pedestrian, or 40% chance that you're going to kill the driver. Okay, am I destroying my own objection here? Then, see, all these things have a 50.0% chance with either, it's like an either or. It's like, shouldn't the car say, well, I'll make the choice based on who I can save them? Like, am I not making myself clear? Like,
well, so, I think what's going on here in this Mortal Machine website is that it's more interested in collecting information on how humans interpret their own morality when applied to a machine.
Right.
So it's not so much what should the car do practically in the real world, but how do you think a car should behave that's self-driving in this situation?
Okay. And then let me see if I understand you correctly. And then not necessarily making the car's AI the same as human morality?
I think, well, this is just a website set up by a group at MIT,
right?
Obviously for just research purposes. But when I first started playing with this, it didn't even occur to me that a self-driving car might make a choice between killing the driver and killing a pedestrian.
Right.
That didn't even occur to me. And then when I started thinking about it, I was like, oh, would I even get in a car that was willing to sacrifice my life?
Right.
In some situation.
Right.
And if that's the case, is that moral or not?
Oh, dude, I am 10 times more frustrated with this Moral Machine now. You know why? Because it's made me think productively and clearly about morality. Even though I haven't clicked through these stupid scenarios,
yep,
it's made me reflect upon and clarify, make my own thought more rigorous about what I think is moral. Stupid website. Dude, it won.
Yeah. And some of these situations are really bizarre. I mean, there's the one I'm looking at right now, I mean, you get a random selection of situations whenever you log into it. The one I am looking at right now is either the car with a human passenger and inside it goes straight through the crosswalk, killing a cat, or the car swerves into a barrier, killing the human passenger. So that's one of the situations too.
Yeah. I mean, that one's easy. Obviously, you save the cat.
What AI wouldn't save the cat?
Seriously. Oh, okay. So should you swerve to kill the pedestrian, or should you swerve to kill the AI that's going to develop a more morally efficient AI?
Right.
Oh, how terrible. Oh, gosh. Well, it's always good to end 2 hours of recording with a heavy dose of moral ambiguity, so.
Let's try to do that every week.
Yeah, absolutely. You have been listening to 2-Bit Geeks, a podcast about the interesting, the useful, and the frivolous. If you'd like to know more, or if you just would like to fill your mind up with random tangential happiness, you can visit 2bitgeeks.com or follow us on Twitter.